This is the published report in Power BI service, and we are going to build this report, and we'll be using a new feature in Power BI which is called as Translytical task flows. And as you can see, we are able to take user inputs, and by clicking on the button on the bottom, you can get the desired results as a pop-up. So first we will look at the documentation and we'll understand what is Translytical task flows and also user data functions. Then we will go to Power BI desktop and see how we can build this report. So let us try to go to the documentation. As you can see, this feature is still in preview, and with this feature, a user could automate action directly from within the report. Like for example, you can modify data records, you can add annotations, you can add dynamic notifications, etc. So there are a lot of examples here. In case if you have time, you can look through all those examples, and they are pretty handy in case if you want to create a translytical task flow, and you can basically do the data right back. So that is a very awesome feature, and there is a step-by-step tutorial. There are certain prerequisites. You should have the Fabric account or a trial account, etc. So look through, and in this case what I want to do is I want to create a very simple example. So I will use user data functions as shown here, but I will not do any kind of creating SQL database, etc. Instead, I will try to take a practical example and try to understand the concept and then build the report. So these are the documentation for the translytical task flows, and you can configure inputs for function parameters, but you should keep in mind there are certain limitations. Only few slicers are being used as input controls. You can map those fields in the report. So you can set up a data function button. As we have already seen, you can, once you click on it, the UDF will be invoked. So this is an example which I thought I will replicate. This is a compound interest calculator which is available online. So you can add inputs and you get the compound interest result. So you can change the values, input values. So in Power BI, we don't have this facility, right? You cannot give user option to input the values. So earlier I have created this report. What I've done is I've created four different tables. I will show it here. I have created this compounding parameter by using the what if parameter option. So I've created four tables as shown here for the interest, the number of periods, and the number of years. So it's a pretty straightforward thing, but again you have to keep in mind there is a limitation here, the table size, right? So we have to work within those constraints. So the input values should be within those ranges. So I've also created certain measures. So like I said, I have created what if parameter and created these numeric fields, and this is the measure which I've created. I've calculated the final amount. The basic formula, I've created variables, and I've plugged in those values in the other variable amount, and I've returned that amount. So I got the final amount, and also I've calculated the accrued interest part. So once the user uses the slicers, you can slide the values, and I've used a text box up top, and those values will change, including the pie chart and also the line chart. So this is pretty easy, and once I have added certain values, let me just make sure that I cross verify with the values which is available online. So if I add those same values here, I will make it as 365 compounding periods and 10 years timeline, and calculate, and the value is matching with our values. So far so great, but in this case we want to use this translytical mm, task flows concept and try to give user option to input values. So that way we will kind of replicate the online calculator, right? So this is how we could do it. I've created four slicers, text slicers, and I've added a button in below, and once I click on the button, UDF is invoked, that function, and I get the value back. So I have done some formatting as well. So let us try to understand what is translytical task flow. We will try to create that step by step. So you should have a trial account or a Fabric account. So the step one is we have to create a new workspace. I have created one as shown here. workspace, user data functions example, and as shown here, I've created that, and I've also enabled those options in my trial account. I've enabled SQL database and user data functions from admin portal. And once I go back to my workspace, next step is I have to create a new item. I have to create a user data function, and I can look for user data function here, typing that. And once I click on it, I have to give a name to it, appropriate name. Let me name it as compound interest, because that is what we wanted to build, right? So let me name it as compound interest and click on create. And in this window, you have an option to create a sample function. So they have certain templates, so you can just click on that new function, and in this window, that window is populated with the Python code as shown here. This is a test code, hello fabric. So there are certain Python libraries which are imported, like as shown here, and there is a object, UDF object, which is being created, and there is also a decorator, and below the decorator there is a function. So as shown here, these are the various imports, and this is the decorator, and this is a function which is going to spit out a welcome to fabric function. And if you give a name while testing this function, it will spit out the name as well. So we can modify this code. We'll say hello and name. So this is a very simple code. So as shown here, you can publish that. Once you publish, that function is available for you to test. You can edit the code by using those two toggle things on the menu on the top, home and edit. And once you publish it, and it's being published, once it is publishing, you can add the parameter. Here we'll give, say, YouTube, and test it. We'll make sure that this is working. So that's how you can create a function here and test it here itself. That way you will know that the function is working, and then you can go back into Power BI and create the report. So this is working perfectly. So let us try to add our own code. So I will make it pretty simple, because we wanted to do calculate compound interest rate. So as shown here, you can add samples here. You can sample code for warehouse, for lake house, the SQL database, the examples which they have, and the documentation, you create them. You can manipulate data using Python libraries, and also you can add the user data types, UDF data types, and you can also manage connections. In case if you have a database, you can add connection there, and you can add any kind of libraries, Python libraries, based on your needs. You can add both public and private. So in case if you have those things, you can download them and use them in your code. So now that we have understood this basic function, let me just go back and try to add the code here. So this is published. So I have made the modifications. Before that, I have made the modifications, and here is the code. It's a pretty simple code. So this fabric library provides the code you need to create user data functions. And next is, like we have seen already, this method is used, and this is the decorator, and this is the code. It takes in 4 parameters: principal, number of compounding periods, the interest rate, and also the time. Pretty simple code. And I have given the formula. This is all Python code. This is the formula, and in the return statement, I've given that the value, right? So I've used the F strings there. So pretty cool. And once I publish this particular thing is ready. Like we have already seen, these are the various templates which are available for you to use. And once I publish, this function is ready. So at least this step is done for us. So it looks complicated, but once you start using it, will be easy. Below taskbar, you will see what is happening, the status. It's being published there. It takes a little bit time for it to be published. And once it is published, in case if you want, you can test it out here itself, or you can just wait for it to publish. You can test the function here itself, or we can wait for it to be published. In our case, it's a very simple code, so we can just wait for it to be published. Once it's published, we can go back to Power BI and start building the report. I've already done that to save time. These are the 4 text slicers I have created for each field: principal amount, compounding parameters, annual interest rate, and how many years. And I've also included a button, and this is how I've added the button to the canvas, and these are the text slicers. And remember the limitations, we can use only a few of them, so a few of the slicers. So this is allowed, so we can use the text slicers. So once that is done, and also we have to make sure that the preview features are enabled, Translytical task flow, and also connect to fabric items. So those things should be enabled. This is August 2025. So anything later than that probably will work in case if you're trying to test it out. So we can test the code here itself. For example, I went back to my fabric service and added certain random numbers and test it. And once it tests, the interest rate is coming out. So there is the function is working perfectly. So now that that is checked out, let us try to go back, and we need to create a report page, right? Like I said, we have created this report page, and next is we have to map. So by selecting the button, we have to map and use the user data function there, and select the workspace, and function set is compound interest, and we can use the function which we have created, compound interest. So that is taken care, and we have to map all the fields. So we have 4 slicers there up top, so we will try to use the appropriate slicers in these values here. So you have to make sure that a report also will be refreshed, so enable that toggle button. And in case if you want, you can auto clear for each of these fields as well. Once you input and once you're done, you can make sure that it is cleared. But in my case, I want to keep it like that. So I've mapped the fields here, so I am ready. So everything is taken care. Looks like I followed the tutorial, and this is how we can do it. Next step is we have to add some values, right? The whole idea is the user can give any values. So based on the values, the compound interest is calculated. So this is kind of, we are replicating the example. So control click on Power BI desktop. Once you do that, and we'll make sure that everything is correct, and all the settings are correct. I've added icons for hover, all those things, the basic button settings. So I've done all those things, loading and different colors, different fields, etc. Those are bells and whistles. So once I'm happy here, let me control click here. Once I do that, we have the spinner here. It's invoking the function which we have created in fabric. And once it is done, first time it might take a little bit time, but yes, it's refreshing. And we have the request submitted and also the answer. So 14,917.92 for the values we have plugged in. So this is perfectly working, right? So we can make changes here. Like I said, for example, if you type in text, what happens? It's not allowing you. So that this is kind of a client-side validation is also there in case if somebody is using text, it's not working. So that's cool. And let me click on it again. Calculate compound interest is working. Another value is popped up. So pretty cool. So from previously when we created 4 tables, from that we have created this kind of report. So this is pretty cool. The Translytical task flows are pretty helpful. So once we have done this, we want to publish this report onto Power BI service. So once I click publish, it will be available, and you can share it among the users, right? That's ultimately, that's the goal. We will save this report. Once you save it and it is being published, you can pick the workspace. Let me pick this workspace and click select. Once I do that, this report is being published in service. So that way, like I said, we can share and collaborate with other users, right? That's the whole idea, right? You create a report and try to share it among users. So it's success. Once I click on open, I am in Power BI. The report has opened up. So let me see that here. Yep, the 2 pages are there, and let me test it out. So let me type in random values here, and for the number of compounding periods and also annual rate. So, and for number of years, let me add 10. And here you can just directly click calculate. And once I click calculate here, the value is there. On the right, the request submitted is there. Once I click on details, I can see the value here. So 1490 by 179. This is pretty cool. So we have achieved what we wanted to. We have replicated the online thing, and this way the user is able to make changes. Like I said, you can add your users here. You can share it with them, and like I said, user is able to input values, and this is a pretty nice feature, I thought. I mean, this is only tip of the iceberg. We have just scratched the surface. There is a lot of things you can do. Again, this is in preview, so let us try to go back and see what we have done. This is the wrap up, and first we have created a workspace, and in that workspace we have added a user data function item, new item. And once I do that and search for that item, I have added the item. I have created a name for it. Once I created, I have used the sample function and I've added my own code and published it. This is the code, and this is a compound interest calculator, and I've added simple Python code. Once I do that and publish, that function is ready. In case if needed, I can test it out here, but I went ahead and created a Power BI report and used all those formatting required things and mapping, etc. Once I have done that, I have published it, and once I published, I could test it out on service as well. So both sites, on the Power BI report side and also service, both are working. So pretty easy. Step-by-step information is available on the documentation. So this is a new feature, and again, this is in preview, so you have to make sure that you follow all this step-by-step information in the tutorials, and also make sure that you have enabled those features as well. And again, you should be mindful of the limitations. So this is pretty cool, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.